Hey guys, so today bringing you another video and welcome to another patch note breakdown. This year's going too quick. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, today, April the 1st, we'll just very quickly say of today's recording session, one of the best recording sessions I've had in a very long time. I think you'll be starting to get that content, if I'm not mistaken, on Thursday. And yeah, probably recorded, I don't know, 4 days worth of content, and all of it was pretty damn good, so look out for that if you did not watch today's stream. But let's get into the patch. So obviously it's April Fools, so they're going to be talking about that a little bit. The actual changes, we're getting nerfs to Darius for both top and jungle, Gwen for both top and jungle, Lilia for jungle, Lulu for support, Neferi for mid and jungle. We're getting buffs to Shaco, Ivan, Olaf. I went that in the wrong order. Brand, Ivan, Olaf, Shaco, Shen, Trundle, Volibear. Volibear does not need any buffs. I literally played him today, by the way. And just spoiler alert, I played champions that I deem basic and overpowered. I played a Volibear game. Let's just say it went quite well, and that was before the buff. And then adjustments to Singe, Xerath, Yone, and Yorick. And then we're getting system changes to Catalyst, Rod of Ages, because again, I think Rod is terrible, so maybe they're actually making it a bit better. Umbral Glaive, Fountain, Home Guard, and more stuff about the lane swap detection. And then the actual April Fool's skins weirdly didn't make it for April Fools. Today is April Fool's. Tomorrow is not. That's a bit weird. So, for this patch, they're counting it, I guess, as the April Fool's patch. They're doing some Easter eggs within the game. Now, I don't know if this is technically for ranked. Pengu Garen will be available for the duration of this patch. It is freely selectable skin for Garen available in all game modes. Oh, so maybe it is available for ranked. In their initial showing of it, they said it wasn't going to be available for ranked. But I think people have been like, whoa, that's actually really funny. It's basically just Garen as a Pengu. If they don't release that as an actual skin, by the way, again, these are the things that Riot need to do. These are the things that the community wants because they're funny and that's cool. And a $200 gacha skin isn't. Never going to be. So, yeah. So there's a new dragon. It's called Party Drake. Now, I will say, I doubt this is on ranked. I'd be surprised. Oh, there you go. All these temporary changes will be active in non-ranked queues. Oh. Well, I don't know. Hopefully the Pengu Garen is available. But, yeah. So the Party Drake, the Soul gives 30% bonus movement speed when within a 650 range of your allies. For every 5% bonus movement speed, gain 1% bonus AD and AP. Oh god, it's just chaos. Dragon Slayer buff, receive a party favor item in your inventory. If your item slots are full, the party favor will be open to you automatically. Party favors will reward a random amount of gold. We might have to play a normal game to check this out. Oh, jeez. And then terrain change when it's a Party Dragon map. Because I presume it's not every game it's Party Dragon. I presume it's still it would be a 1 in 7% or 1 in 7 chance. I don't know. Unless they've turned the percentage up for this patch for normals and stuff. But disco pads will appear in bases and the jungle. Stepping on different disco pads will grant a stacking movement speed buff. Oh, right. Okay. That's kind of fun. A ducky disco ball will appear in your base. Clicking on the ducky disco ball will channel an effect granting you more stacks of movement speed. Ah, God. And then Shaco's Mayhem for Summoner's Rift and ARAM. Cat Shaco boxes will spawn along the lane. Picking up a box will grant you a random cute effect. Oh, God. And then ARAM but make it faster. Everything's going quicker. So, yeah. LeBlanc's getting a visual update. Looks really cool. Obviously, if you guys are following, obviously, Arcane and stuff. Right at the end of the last season of Arcane. It's not a spoiler technically for Arcane, but LeBlanc showed up. And it didn't look like our version of LeBlanc. It looked like that version of LeBlanc. So they were working it into what LeBlanc is in the kind of, animation world. Most likely because the next animation they do will probably have LeBlanc in it. Also worth knowing when it comes to shows and stuff, it has been reported a live action series has been kind of set underway within Riot's world. And it is a Bilgewater series. So I think live action is scary to a lot of people. Like, I liked the Warcraft movie, but that was a big budget and it still was a little bit rough around the edges. But I would say of any region that they probably could make work as a live action, it's Bilgewater. Like 100%. So like easily, I don't know what story they'll do, but obviously there are pirate hunters, Misfortune, there are pirates like Graves, there's cutthroats, there's a lot going on that they can do, and doesn't have to be all about magic per se. But obviously the one thing that they need to be careful of, I'd imagine, if Twisted Fate does, appear in it, well, let's be honest, he's Gambit. The original characters of League of Legends, they're all based on other characters. Twisted Fate is Gambit from Marvel. They might have to be a bit careful with that because it will be coming into like digital media, and Marvel might be like, hey, wait, what? So they might have to be a little bit careful with that. But anyway, the Demon's Hand card game is being changed. So they're just making it a little bit easier to acquire certain things. System changes to Home Guard. So they're nerfing it potentially. It's become a commonplace tactic for mid laners to rush symbiotic souls and repeatedly recall to fill their health and mana before rushing back to lane, which removes almost all the sense of attrition in the lane. True. Since we like that souls are popular and viable item of support, we'd rather adjust the recall incentives than nerf the boots themselves. Mathematically, the changes below result in shorter trips to base when low on resources and slower trips when you're already near full. Oh, I like that. Okay, so maximum HP per second. So this is actually what the fountain is giving you. So it can only give you 8% of your maximum HP per second and 10% maximum mana per second. But early game missing, so wherever they are saying the early to late game, I don't know if they're actually saying what this actually is in time. But the early game missing health, instead of it being 6%, it's 16. And then late game, you're also healing more. So they are changing it when it comes to early and late game. And then for the movement speed, the early game speed is going down, which obviously affects that mid lane thing of always basing. And then, the 14 to 40 minute movement speed is being nerfed in the 14 minute, but being still the same at 40 minute. Lane swap detection, we're further shrinking the lane swap detection area so that it should no longer catch champions who find themselves fighting in the enemy jungle. I will say, I think in yesterday's play session, I think it was yesterday's, 2 times, different games, I had the lane swap thing in the middle of my screen when I was, I think, in mid lane, and a support is just coming over to fight really early. I'm like, whoa, go away. Because obviously the amount of negative things that lane swap thing brings. So yeah. Anyway, champion changes. Brand. Passive damage has been increased. Ooh, they're buffing Brand. So obviously Brand got some heavy nerfs because not that long ago, he was like the #1 jungler. His clear speed was insane. His damage was good. Obviously, he's very good when it comes to the Void Grubs because of all the AoE going on. It's very hard to fight a Brand when it comes to that type of thing because you are walking into just carnage AoE. So yeah, any little buff here is a potential. And by the way, they're jungle buffs. They're not just Brand buffs. They are Brand jungle buffs. So they are fundamentally wanting Brand back in the jungle. I think a lot of people will not massively be a fan of that. So the damage cap per tick versus non-epic monsters has gone up considerably because each tick is a decent amount of damage. And then the explosion damage, which obviously is his passive doing the kind of big circle and boom on the bigger monsters, is also going up. So yeah, faster wave clear again for Brand. Oh god, okay. Darius, so again, has been very good in the jungle. They did nerf his clear speed a bit. It's still good. He still is incredibly good at fighting everybody, 1v1 and even 1v2. And he's still always been a very good top laner, obviously. So his armor is being nerfed by 2. And his E cooldown is going up by also 2 seconds. Now, again, this is one of these nerfs that from the outside, if you're newer to the game or, you're not into the massive balance, it's like, bro, 2 armor? Like, there's nothing. That's actually a decent nerf. So the thing with League of Legends, and again, we all give it a very hard time overall when it comes to balance. For how many champions there are in the game, for how many items there are in the game, League of Legends is actually a pretty balanced game. You know, we all give it a hard time or say things are OP. They can be, and some things are, but fundamentally, the average line, it's actually not that bad. So if right now Darius has base 39 armor, if you're like, right, we need to nerf Darius, let's get rid of 10 armor, you wouldn't be able to play Darius. Like, that's the thing. That's what people need to realize. A 10 armor nerf will make him one of the squishiest champions in the early game, and he'll get wrecked. 2, it's like, think of like a cake. They're just trimming off the top. You still leave the cake, it's just a little bit of excess just to trim off that little bit that he doesn't potentially need, because the rest of his kit is really strong. And the same goes for his E. His bread and butter is his passive, his Q, his W for the auto reset, and his ultimate. The E's the bonus. If you land the E, that's a bonus. That's the thing they're nerfing. So it's, again, it's a nerf that isn't going for his throat. It's a nerf, but it's still, he'll be fine because of how strong he is. That's the point. So I'm fine with that. Ugh, Gwen. Nightmare of a champion. Again, fundamentally, I would say Gwen is cursed with being a modern champion with a modern kit. Mobility, damage, you know, avoidance with her W, true damage, ranged abilities. It's just insane. So, lo and behold, she's still too strong. So they're nerfing her down. So on her Q, the final snip, which I presume is when she has the full stacks, is being nerfed. But again, 10 damage per rank. It's a nerf. Like, again, the Garen nerf, it is a nerf. But I potentially would have myself, I would have maybe hit that. I think 5% AP away from it would have probably been okay. But they didn't do that. So she'll still be fine. And then the W, hello, Miss Maya. Her resists when she has W on, I think it's 20... so it's 25 armor and 25 MR. That's now going to 22, but it's going up in how much AP she has. So in actual late game, which is what they were supposed to be trying to nerf of Gwen, she'll be tankier. Bit weird. Ivan, Q root duration increased at lower ranks. Again, you really don't see much Ivan. Ivan is weak, especially in the early game. Yeah, you don't say. The problem that Ivan has got is he fundamentally doesn't do anything in the modern game. The modern game of League is so objective focused, if you think about it. You know, even from the beginning of the game, the scuttle grubby monster things, Ivan can't fight for them if the other jungler goes for the same one. The void grubs, Ivan sucks at fighting them. He is completely reliant on his team. All the dragons, Atakan, like, he can't do any of that compared to other junglers. So I think Ivan, unfortunately, he's hurt because of the direction that the game's taken. Now, what's the answer to that? Now, obviously, Ivan is supposed to be a support in the jungle. I could see a world that they if this is the direction of the game that they want, very objective focused, I could see a world that they do a mini rework of him and he becomes an actual support. Because he's never going to be that good in an objective focused game. He's not good at that, you know? Or they've got to give him a mechanic that he can kill objectives. And what? He can hug an objective and it just has a really long timer for him to claim? Maybe, but like that then could be too strong. But then I guess it's the enemy team's fault if they wander by, hey, Ivan's hugged the dragon, we shouldn't let him get that. So there's, like, you know, different things that they could do. Lilia, again, obnoxious champion, definitely. So her E damage has been decreased. But again, it's kind of like where I say with the Darius changes, fundamentally, the E is kind of the least important thing of Lilia's kit. Her passive and movement speed, her Q is the big damage, her W is the massive bonk, and her R is for the sleep. The bonus is if you hit the E. So where this is a nerf and they're toning her down, in the vast majority of times that you fight a Lilia, she'll feel exactly the same as she already does, because most of the time Lilias don't even land their E. So realistically, this isn't really a nerf. So it's a 10% AP nerf, but as I said, like, if you wanted to hit this champion, actually, you'd nerf the passive, the Q, the W, or the ultimate. Probably you'd nerf the Q, if anything. Nerfing the E is basically showing, oh yeah, we know she's a problem, but you're not really wanting her out of meta or anything like that. Lulu, very strong champion. Again, a bit too consistent in some ways for an enchanter. Obviously the game isn't, how do I say, it's not the most enchanter friendly, but that's where I think Lulu does quite okay, because Lulu can have a massive impact for an enchanter support. Most enchanters, they don't have incredible impact until absolute late game. Lulu can do incredible things throughout the game. You know, her W to polymorph an enemy so they literally can't do anything. You can then chain CC something, you know, ult either yourself or one of your teammates and they go big. That's another knock up. She's pretty good. And again, the meta right now for AD carries, a lot of it does seem to be quite attack speed on hit focused. And Lulu obviously is the queen, you could say, alongside Milio at helping those type of champions. So she is pretty good. So Q damage decreased and W cooldown increased at a higher rank. So double nerfs. But yeah, Q, Glitter Lance is going down in base damage. Yeah, base damage. And remember, base damage hurts supports more than scaling, because supports do not scale very well. They're AP. They don't buy 500 ability power, right? That's not what they buy. Their damage is all about early game lane phase is base damage. So nerfing her base minimum damage and her base maximum damage of the Q, that's a nerf. She will feel that. And then the W, ooh, it's being flattened. So normally you got cooldown off it per rank. It's being flattened to 18 seconds, which is the same as her level 1 cooldown. That's pretty big nerfs. Like that, they're pretty considerable. So yeah. Neferi, base health decreased, passive monster damage decreased, Q damage to minions increased, and W cooldown increased at lower ranks. So Neferi is the top in brackets jungle dog after her recent update. I played her once, by the way, and obviously I'm not a player of this champion. I was also against an annoying Hecarim. She seemed strong, but she didn't seem like obnoxious. I think, again, where I didn't have a great game, I didn't snowball, and she is, I think, again, she's an assassin, or supposedly an assassin. If you don't snowball on an assassin, you're never going to have a good game no matter what. And that's kind of what happened to me. I didn't have a bad game, but it wasn't a good game either. So they are nerfing her health, nerfing her armor, lessening her damage from her passive, which I think is the obviously pack damage, I presume, that the wolves are doing or the dogs are doing with her. But then buffing her own damage from her Q. And then the W is going up in cooldown, which obviously is the immunity now, that you become immune like a Fizz Troll Pole, and you summon, I think, 2 other dogs. So yeah, that's being nerfed. And then fix the bug where W would sometimes not destroy tower shots while Nefarious was untargetable. So I guess a tower would still hit her, even though it technically shouldn't have. And then the ultimate fix the bug where Silas, who stole Nefarious, would become untargetable during the class. Oh, which is basically what the old ultimate was. So it was basically Silas's code was being confused with the old version versus the new version, I guess. E cast time now scales at attack speed. Oh, that's quite good. So Olaf E can feel slow at higher attack speeds with no AS scaling, making you not feel good about using it, interrupting your AA flow. Yeah, I'd agree to that. That's a pretty nice quality of life change. Technically a buff, but it won't put Olaf in the kind of like top tier. But there are dedicated Olaf players. They are quite rare, but they do exist. So they'll like it. Shaco, again, Shaco buffs while new Shaco skin. Yeah, AP Shaco is already pretty strong. I'd say AP Shaco is borderline overpowered right now, by the way. His damage is obscene. Like, his box damage is crazy. And I don't mind saying, I've played quite a lot of Shaco in the last year to 2. What do I think between AP and AD Shaco in terms of how easy one is versus the other? I think AP is much easier to play than AD. Much. Because AP fundamentally takes the risk out of playing Shaco. The risk of playing Shaco usually is you Q or 2 somebody to commit yourself to doing damage of backstab. I'm going to try and kill you before you can react and kill me. AP Shaco doesn't have to do that, because he just sets a minefield like a Teemo, but it's kind of even more powerful than a Teemo because they fear. You can then set them all going off each other, so you can fear they're taking damage. They then get feared into another box, taking more damage. Then they get feared into another box. That's way more powerful than Teemo mushrooms. And then his ultimate obviously does an incredible amount of damage versus when it's AD. So these buffs are AD centric, but to be honest, I wouldn't even be surprised if they should have nerfed AP right now. It's very, very, very strong and easier to pull off than AD a lot of the time. The negative AP has is it takes a while to get there. That's the problem. Is you do need 1 to 2 items before you really start coming online. You need your Blackfire, and you need your second item, which sometimes for some is Malignant, some is a Leandries. But yeah, your second item, then you're golden. You'll start probably killing a lot of things. But anyway, let's see what it is. So damage to his backstab is getting buffed, a 5% bonus AD buff. Nice, we'll take it. And then the actual Q deceive ability is a 5% bonus AD buff as well. So yeah, just it's helping out AD Shaco, but they're not crazy buffs. You know, do I see Shakos even now when they have a good game queuing to backstab and one-shotting people like a Kha'Zix evolved Q can? Not really, no. Will this help with that? Yeah, but I still don't think Shaco has got the strength to do what like a fed Kha'Zix or a fed Rengar can do. So yeah. Q now applies flat damage to structures. Oh, wow, okay. So that's a really good thing. So the thing with Shen that I think is fundamentally a problem, I like Shen. Shen was one of the OG split pushers. You know, when meta wasn't about split pushing as a top laner like it is nowadays, Shen was one of the OG split pushers because fundamentally he could be on side lane and ultimate to come help. So he can be allowed to go side lane. But he's never been a very good tower taker. But now if his Q... attack speed and flat damage now apply against structures. Percent max health damage is not applied, however, but it's still a help to actually make him into a split pusher. Every champion that Shen is going against in top lane is more or less a better split pusher than Shen. The only one, and hilariously, I think he's kind of fallen out of favor and meta at the moment. I pick Shen if I know I'm against a Gragas, because I know if I pick Shen into Trundle, Darius, Kale, any of those like regular top laners, you know, Trundle, whatever, I might have said that already, my tower is dead the moment I go ultimate across the map. But against a Gragas, it's not, and it's kind of okay. But at the same time, if Shen is the one split pushing, you know, the enemy top laner can kind of go, oh, it's going to take Shen ages to kill that tower. I can try and do something here. If he doesn't have his ultimate up. But now this will give Shen a bit more urgency in actually being an actual split pusher. So that's cool. Singed. Passive cooldown increased, Q damage increased, our bonus stats decreased, however. So they're taking some... So how do I explain? Every single champion in League has basically got, you know, let's just say 100% power. And where you put the percentages can vary per champion. So some champions, their ultimate is so powerful that 50% of their power, their theoretical power as a champion, will be in their ultimate. So then the remaining 50% has to be divided by the passive, the Q, the W, and the E. Singed, I would say recently, has definitely been, from what I've seen, obviously he's a specialist champion, but I wouldn't say 50% of his power is in his ultimate, but he's probably got a decent amount of power into his ultimate. Probably like 40%, let's say, of his power has been in his ult. But that means he's only very good when his ultimate is on cooldown, which is a very obvious ability. You know, you hear it happening. You see it happening. So what they're potentially trying to do is, instead of making him just good with his ultimate, you know, let's say it's 40% of his power bank of 100, maybe they'll tone that down to being 30 to 35% of his power. That means you can put that extra 10% into other places in his kit. That's what you're supposed to do when it comes to balance, by the way. And that's where I personally do think a lot of newer champions fail that. You know, it's where, like, oh, you're fighting a Gwen, let's just randomly, you know, what percentage would you put where in her kit? Like, compared to other champions, Gwen doesn't have 100% of power and she's dividing it in places. She's got like 180% of power. Like, that's the kind of problem with more modern champions. They just do way more. Which, again, is because their power is completely out of whack. So, his passive, Noxus Slipstream, per target cooldown is going up. But the Poison Trail, ooh, that's not bad. So, again, this is one of those that people go, oh my god, that's so minute. That's not bad. The amount of tick damage that you're getting constantly, when he's a tanky Singed with percentage health items like Leandre's running around you, an extra 2.5% AP ratio, that will hurt, like, fundamentally. And then his ultimate, the Insanity Potion, the bonus stats are going down. Only by 5. So again, it's a small nerf, but it's to basically make him a little bit better and not completely reliant on his ultimate. So that's not bad. I think that's actually pretty good. So there we go. Mr. Trundle, E slow increased, cooldown decreased. So obviously one of the kings of split pushing. Trundle has received a lot of changes that skewed him towards lower MMR. Well, he is fundamentally one-dimensional. And I think you can make Trundle work in higher rating, but I think a lot of higher rating players find him quite boring. And again, he doesn't have the satisfaction like people go, but you see Garen and Warwick in high rating now. Yeah, you do, because they're more satisfying. Like, Trundle fundamentally just goes bonk, bonk, bonk. Garen has a big ultimate that is satisfying. Warwick has his ultimate as well that, you know, you have to launch yourself, that is satisfying to some people. Trundle doesn't really have that. You know, there's not that boom moment that Trundle has. So his E, the slow is going up and the cooldown is coming down. So they are trying to help Trundle have a bit more skill expression. Again, he's got basically none. But what the only ability that you kind of say is skillful of Trundle is his E. Position of a pillar, blocking a route, blocking a, you know, even a dash you can do if you do it perfectly. So that is a help to skillful troll players without making him even more oppressive in lower rating. That's quite a smart buff. Volibear, again, really doesn't need any buffs. I'm telling you this right now. But I've just noticed why they've done this. So it's not really a buff. So it's still 50% damage amp with the extra W if you keep Wing the same target, but it's giving it a 15% bonus AD ratio. Why is this not really a buff? This is a buff to AD Volibear that nobody plays. Now, with this, will people start playing AD Volibear? Maybe. You know, I can't predict the future, but I think so many Volibears are completely set in their ways of playing the semi-hybrid AP tank build. I don't see why they'd swap. Because this isn't a nerf to AP or AP tank Volibear. This isn't a nerf. It's only a buff if you want to play AD. You don't have to do it. I don't see this being... It's not really a buff. It's a change to go, hey, AD Volibear. But why would they do it? They haven't nerfed AP. I played it today, by the way. It's still bonkers. It's way too strong. So, yeah. Zadaf. A cool, very, very cool champion to me. So, Q damage increased, W damage adjusted, E damage decreased, and R damage adjusted. Ooh. Xerath has lost some focus as a premier artillery mage mid laner over time and has transitioned a good chunk of his play into support. We'd like to make some power adjustments to more clearly emphasize his prowess as a mid laner and reward high cost AP purchase. I like this, but I don't know if if I'm completely utterly honest, stuff like Xerath just doesn't really work that well in mid lane in most games. He doesn't have the tempo. Again, the game is so tempo. It's more early game focused, like it's been for a long time, but still objective focused. A lot of mages aren't very good at that, let alone an artillery mage. But yeah, so a 5% AP ratio on his Q, which is nice. Ooh, okay, that's a change. So that's technically... So 60% AP ratio versus 65% bonus AP. So bonus AP is only the things that you're getting upon buying items, not everything being counted. So this is technically a nerf to support because obviously you're having to buy, you know, the support item is going to slow you down. I've got to sneeze. But yeah, fundamentally that's a buff for mid lane Xerath because they fundamentally are just buying ability power as a mid lane carry. But as Xerath support has to probably be a bit more team based. Do they have to buy that anti-heal, you know, Oblivion Orb that doesn't give the most ability power? Potentially, yeah, because they're the support. So that's definitely a buff to mid lane and away from support because it's also, by the way, a base damage nerf, which again supports are more reliant on base damage because they're not having as many items. His E, similar story. base damage nerf. That's a nerf to support Xerath. But his ultimate, he's getting value added eventually. It's a base damage nerf again, because obviously they do know a 5% AP ratio on his main damage ability is a lot. But that's quite a lot of support nerfs. But he's gaining another 5% AP ratio in his ultimate. So again, they are trying to go, so you can play it as support if you want, but it's not as strong. Mid lane is where we want him. I just don't know if Xerath even fits in the modern game mid, but we'll see. I'll play a game of him. I love playing Xerath. Yone, passive crit damage reduction removed. And E, crowd control cleanse removed. Oh, good. Broken elements of Yone's kit is finally going away. Critical strike damage is no longer reduced by 10%. So, yeah. And then his E, which is, again, the really unhealthy part. So, no longer cleanses crowd control upon returning. So, you could get in trouble as a Yone. You could just press your E and peace, I'm gone. Well, you can't do that now if you're crowd controlled. Funny that. Good. That's very good. Yorick. I'm not going to go through these all right now, but fundamentally, TLDR, they're buffing Yorick as the man and then nerfing his Ghoul and Maiden. But his Ghoul and Maiden will be available more, but they're just not as strong. I'm completely okay with this change, because it never feels good about being outplayed by Ghouls and a Maiden. Like, you're not being outplayed, let's be honest. It sucks. So, yeah. So it's like, look what they're talking about. Skill expression, because there's just been none for Yorick for a very long time. So yeah, I'll probably play a game of Yorick at the end of this week, and we could try out his new changes, and we'll go over the changes then. Items. Catalyst of Aeons. So again, as a ex and Nivea aficionado, yeah, I hate Rod of Ages right now, but I don't just hate it on Anivia, like that new Ahri build that people are saying about. Yeah, I played against one today. It sucked. Like, there's no reason to buy Rod unless you're absolutely playing a late game hyper carry. Ahri is not that. Anivia is kind of that, but also not really. The only champs that I personally, on the top of my head, and there might be a couple more, Veigar, maybe Kassadin. But hell, most Kassadins I see ignore it because it's too slow. They just rush Malignance nowadays. But like Veigar, Aurelian Soul, question mark, but I don't even know if he would, to be honest. But yeah, there's very few champions I would actively buy this item on right now. So what are they doing? So I would say it's nice to see some changes. So the cost of it is unchanged. So it's exactly the same in cost, but they're making it, ooh, okay, that's cool. So where the build path before was a ruby crystal, a sapphire crystal, and 600 gold, it's now a ruby, and sapphire, and 200 gold. For those that are like, well, why, what? Basically, to get to the components of Catalyst, you had two kind of weak components, and then you had to wait 600 gold just to get this item. Well, now, if you are going back a bit more often, or let's say you go back and you can buy all three of these components, you're walking into lane fundamentally a lot stronger than walking into lane with these two. That makes a difference. Again, still doesn't give any damage, but still. Mana of it is going up when you've completed the item, so an extra 75 mana. I like that. That's nice. And the mana restored from damage taken is being buffed. Ooh. Those are all pretty good changes. Rod of Ages. That's all they're doing to it. So the 7 to 10% mana that you're getting back from damage taken is just being applied to Rod. I still don't think that's enough. I mean, this is good. I like this. I don't think it's still good enough to buy it. If I'm completely honest, I don't. The core fundamental, like we've said it within this patch note, talking about Ivan and stuff. Fundamentally, the game is very fast paced right now. It's very objective focused. If you're playing a mid laner that's relying on Rod of Ages, when that first grub fight starts happening, you do no damage. If the enemy mid laner has got a lost chapter and you've got a catalyst, you're useless compared to them. That's the problem. Rod of Ages as an item is not terrible. It's just bad in how the game is played right now. And I don't know what changes they would realistically do to change that, because what Rod of Ages is a time investment item. It's relatively weak when you buy it. You wait 10 minutes, it buffs up its stats, and you get a free level up. That's its strength, but that's not good for the modern game, where you need to be stronger earlier into the game. You need to be more relevant earlier into the game. That's exactly what Rod of Ages isn't. That's the problem. And again, before people start spouting things about, you know, these like Ari build, etc., if you're watching people achieve good things with that build in Challenger or, you know, Master, Grandmaster Challenge or Pro Play, that is not the games that I'm in, and that's not the games that you guys are in. It's a different world. So yeah. Umbral Glaive, Total Ghost is going down. Again, you don't see many people buying it. Ooh, okay. So it's becoming cheaper. You're getting more attack damage, but you're not able to clear wards as often. It's technically a net buff, because how often are you walking into the enemy jungle or whatever to clear a ward? You're not really doing that every minute. You're doing that maybe every couple. So I think that's probably okay. And that is it. ARAM changes. Arena changes. I've only played legit one game of Arena. Let me know if you guys would like an Arena video before it goes away. Clash. Oh. Ooh, okay. This is something that I need to also ask you guys. So, if you guys haven't heard, it's gone very good recently when it comes to the subscriber number on Twitch. Mainly thanks to one individual, but a bunch of other people have definitely helped. We're hit over 1,000 Twitch subs for the first time easily in 2025, but honestly, I think it's been over 6 months. The goal of doing that was to do a 24-hour ranked stream. I think people will be okay with it, because it's like the ultimate version of rank. The day that I'll be doing that is April 19th. There's a Clash tournament. Would people be okay with me doing, again, it's a 24-hour ranked stream, where fundamentally, for those that are like, what? It's ranked as the word ranked. So 75% of the stream will be League of Legends ranked, but we'll be breaking it up a little bit by playing some TFT ranked, maybe even playing some Marvel Rivals ranked. But 75% of it, so out of a 24-hour stream, you know, whatever, 18 hours, whatever it is, will be League of Legends. Would people be okay with me having, how long does Clash take? 2 hours, maybe? Like, I think people will probably be fine with me going, oh yeah, go play some Clash. You know, that would be nice to break it up a little bit. So yeah, I'll probably play Clash on that day. But yeah, so put that date in your diaries. Blue Essence Emporium is coming back. Jin and Vel'Koz pricing has been adjusted. But there we go. That is going to be it. So if you guys enjoyed, obviously, as always, I've recorded this right now. I'm going to be straight away editing it, straight away uploading it, ready to be you guys watching it in about 3 hours. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy it. Please do like it if you haven't. Hopefully you guys will enjoy the upcoming content. As I said, it's getting pretty good. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys next time. Peace.
Welcome to the Rift, where the legends play. It's Aussie games bringing skill every day. From tips to tricks and play so fine, you'll learn the game and have a good time. Thanks for watching, you're the real MVP. Hit that like and sub, join the family tree. Like, comment and subscribe, keep the Aussie dream alive.